Hi, everyone. So I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. I'm presenting to you from the UBC Vancouver's Point Grey campus. UBC Vancouver's campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. It is with the utmost respect and humility that I thank these nations for being the caretakers of this land, past, present, and future. And I'm forever grateful to have the opportunity to live and work in such a beautiful place. Thank you.
Okay, now for a bit of an icebreaker, I'm going to ask everybody to just type into the Zoom chat where they're joining us from today. I'll give you all a few minutes to do that. Awesome. I see Vancouver, Langley. Fantastic. Great. So we have some Vancouver, some Langley. I'm in Vancouver right now. So it's Jordan and Kinsey. We're excited we can all connect today over Zoom from a couple of different places.
Okay. So some of you may be wondering what the Faculty of Land and Food Systems actually is and what we do. So first and foremost, we are a science faculty that applies our expertise and real world knowledge to try to solve some of the world's biggest problems. So LFS is a world leader in integrated research, education, and services that address critical global issues, issues that surround human and animal health, as well as sustainability and security of the food supply. We are also the #1 ranked agricultural program in Canada and actually number 19 worldwide. Next slide, please. So why study in LFS? Our programs at LFS address local and global issues that surround food security, global human health, land use, animal welfare, and honestly, so much more. So although we are a small faculty, we are a tight-knit community where you can forge meaningful and lasting connections with students, faculty members, and even staff. So the experiential learning opportunities that we are able to offer are designed to give you real-world experience, whether that is through practical labs, field trips, building campus and community partnerships, or internship co-op opportunities. LFS will prepare you to pursue a career related to your interests. So next slide, please. So in today's session, we're going to start off with some introductions, then do a deep dive into applied biology and the majors that are offered. So then we'll give you a taste of what it's like to be an applied biology student. We're going to do a case study about human-wildlife conflict and coexistence. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with a faculty, alumni, and student highlight. We're extremely lucky today to have Sasha, one of our animal welfare professors, Megan, one of our LFS alumni, and Michelle, who is actually a current LFS student. And all three are here to talk about life within LFS. And then after that, we'll go over some admissions information, and then we'll have a Q&A where you can all ask questions that I'm sure you have plenty of. So next slide, please. So who am I? My name is Jordan Scanson. I'm the Indigenous Academic Advisor with LFS. So what that means is I'm an academic advisor who helps students navigate through difficulties, through challenging circumstances in their education, as well as I have a piece of my portfolio where I support Indigenous students from admissions to graduation, basically. And yeah, I've been in this role for about a year. I am Indigenous myself. I am Cree, Woodland Cree on my mother's side from the Lac La Ronge Indian Band in northern Saskatchewan. And I have settler ancestry on my father's side. So I'll pass it over to Kenzie.
Hey guys, thanks Jordan. I hope you're all having a great day and thank you for joining our Taste of LFS Applied Biology, or as you'll hear the team calling it, App Bi Deep Dive session. So as Jordan said, my name is Mackenzie, but feel free to call me Kinsey, and I'm in my second year in LFS studying applied animal biology, and I am working in student services as the Indigenous Outreach Coordinator. My job consists of working very closely with Jordan and Caroline, but more with Jordan, on helping students with stuff and creating a more stronger community with Indigenous students within our faculty. I also am Indigenous. I am an Anishinaabe woman from the Chippewas and Nawash in Ontario, Cape Croker. I'm originally from a small town in Ontario, just north of Burlington. And that's pretty much everything about me. Caroline, I'll hand it off to you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Caroline, and I'm a student ambassador over here at LFS Student Services. So I do a lot of outreach programming for prospective undergrads, just so you guys can all get a good understanding of what LFS is like and whether it's a good fit for you. I'm not actually an APBI student. I'm in the Food, Nutrition, and Health program. I'm in my third year of the dietetics program, but I do have some knowledge about APBI and its programs as well. So now to get started talking about applied biology, we just want to hear from you. What comes to mind when you think of applied biology? It's kind of a broad term, so we're just curious what your interests are with this topic and why you're here. So if you want to just type that in the Zoom chat so we can get to know you a little bit better. Awesome. Medicine, like animal medicine. That's awesome. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Great. These are some awesome answers, and we're going to get really in depth into the different majors we have. Amazing. These are great answers. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about each of the majors. I'm going to pass it back to Jordan so he can talk about them.
Perfect. Thank you, Caroline. So yeah, exactly. What is applied biology? So the applied biology program focuses on real-world applications of sciences in the management. Hi, can everyone hear me? Sorry, it kicked me out of the meeting for a second. So as I was saying, this program addresses not only real problems through experiential learning opportunities, but also integrates technical expertise with sustainability and ethics. So our program emphasizes critical thinking and uses a system-based approach. So meaning we zoom out and look at the big picture to solve problems practically. Next slide, please. So throughout this degree, students are taught how to think through difficult problems and engage in difficult conversations. They'll learn adaptability, communication, and even cultural competencies. And students will also develop strategic planning skills by working with community partners as part of the LFS core series. Next slide. So what are the majors in applied biology? So in this part of the session, we're going to go into a little bit more depth on all the offered APBI majors. So the APBI major has two specializations. One is the applied animal biology major. That is nicknamed APBI. And the next is the sustainable agriculture and environment, better known as SAGE. So in applied animal biology, it can lead you to many different places. A lot of students find themselves in graduate studies, veterinary school, or as professionals in the field of animal biology and welfare. So APBI students become experts on animal physiology, behavior, and animal ethics as they interact with human society, and our students gain practical knowledge and skills. One amazing part of the AppBuy program is actually our UBC Dairy Research and Education Center. The center is a first-class facility supporting the development and adaptation of new dairy tech for farmers here in BC, and it has applications throughout the world. So the Dairy Center is actually in Agassiz, BC, and a lot of AppBuy students do practicums there, and they gain firsthand knowledge about animal welfare in the industry. So a degree in applied biology can, of course, lead to many different careers. Students who graduate with an AppBuy degree can become veterinarians, wildlife rehabilitators, conservation officers, dairy product inspectors, or even government consultants. And of course, this is not an exhaustive list. Our students can go into many different fields if they so choose. So next, that brings us to the SAGE program, so Sustainable Agriculture and Environment. So this major leads students to a professional career that shapes more sustainable and food secure futures. So students will learn how to better protect soil, water, land, and air. This includes best methods of growing in farm or even urban environments. And beyond this, students can develop research skills that can be used in constantly changing environments. And this brings us to the UBC Farm. So the UBC Farm, or better known as the Center for Sustainable Food Systems, is actually on the UBC campus. It's a 60-hectare organic farm used to not only produce food for the local community, but also it also serves as a teaching and research facility. So here students are able to immerse themselves in what's basically a living lab. They offer help in finding solutions to local and global challenges like food security and sustainable practices. The UBC Farm is also home to the Musqueam Garden. This garden uses traditional methods and indigenous ways of knowing in their farming practices. So if you ever do get the opportunity to go out to the UBC Farm, I would really highly recommend taking a walk through. But of course, you would need to be respectful about it. And in addition, there's actually farmers markets at the UBC Farm. I believe they're April to November. So definitely check those out if you have a chance. Perfect. And finally, career opportunities. So just like the applied biology, a SAGE specialization can lead to many different careers, such as agricultural consultant, biodiversity specialist, conservation officer, again, ecosystem restoration consultant, natural resource officer, and you can even be a vineyard manager. So I'll pass it off now.
Okay, so those are our majors, but what is it actually like to be in a classroom studying these topics and figuring out university? So next slide, please. To give you a taste of what coursework is like in AppBuy, we're going to do a case study on wildlife conflict and coexistence. Next slide. So, human-wildlife conflict is when the needs or behaviors of wildlife negatively impacts humans or vice versa. So, for example, there's like a competition for resources, or when wildlife damages crops, injured people or livestock. The result of this is that animals are often killed in retaliation for and to prevent the future conflicts. Next slide, please.
So coexistence between animals refers to the sustainable way in which we can live in shared spaces with animals and landscapes. Coexistence reduces the conflicts and improves well-being for both humans and wildlife. It also increases our positive interactions with wildlife. In today's world, many species are threatened, endangered, or critically endangered, and the truth is that human activities are the leading cause of these harms, impacting both animal welfare and conservation. These harms can be unintentional, intentional, direct, or indirect, and we will be going into more depth as to what each of these harms mean in the next few slides. It's really important that we recognize the cause and effect of human behavior on wildlife.
All right, so there's two types of harms: direct intentional harm, which I will go over now, and direct unintentional harms, which I will go over in a second. But direct intentional harm is on purpose. They are actions taken that knowingly cause distress, injury, or death to animals. This includes things like captivity, hunting, trapping, culling, and starvation of the animals. Next slide. Direct unintentional harms. Direct unintentional harms are when action taken that cause distress, injury, or death are done by accident. So when you're driving and you hit an animal, unintentional harm. Tourism can sometimes overtake areas where animals feel natural, and so they have habitat loss. Oil spills are unintentional, things like fires and pesticides, all of these things that can affect animals and are done by accident. All right, so the case study. The case we are going to look at today is the 2020 and 2021 coyote attacks in Stanley Park. Here are some of the headlines from what Time describing coyotes that had no fear of humans and even attacked them on several cases. This was a highly debated topic because some people wanted to cull them, which is to kill large amounts of wildlife as a form of population control, while others wanted to let them live. By the way, it was a dangerous situation for both humans and coyotes. After lots of debate, 11 coyotes ended up being culled. Let's talk a bit more about some of the factors that play here. Okay.
So there's some quick coyote facts before we get started. I didn't know this until recently, but coyotes only first arrived in Metro Vancouver back in the 1930s. They weren't traditionally here. Their mating season is from January to February, and it typically occurs between the male and female alphas of a pack. And they generally stick to eating small wildlife like mice and rabbits, but they will eat almost anything they can get their hands on, not real hands, obviously. But it's like food that's left out or thrown out in unsecured garbage cans.
So why is this happening? Part of it was that the coyotes lost their natural fear of humans. There are so many people in Stanley Park with additional tourism, and everyone, when I first came to Vancouver, people told me, go to Stanley Park, it's the place to go. So coyotes will get used to them. Beyond this, many dogs get walked off leash and may encroach on coyote territory. And another fact is that if people feed the coyotes or leave food where they can get to it, the animals start to associate humans with food and grow much more willing to come close. So culling is not a long-term solution. It can increase reproduction rates and increase animal migration to the area. Population often quickly rises again, and the problem will just resume. Conflict to coexistence. Alternatives for culling, many of which have been incorporated in Stanley Park since this event, include non-lethal deterrent methods, animal-proof garbage bins, cleaning up your litter, hazing, enforcement and educational signage against feeding wildlife, education to change the perceptions of coyotes as threats. So learning to coexist in 2023. What are we doing now to coexist here in Vancouver? The city has introduced laws that prohibit wildlife feeding, animal-proof garbage cans, and conditioning programs that teach coyotes to be wary of humans. All of these things will help them to become more afraid of humans again and will prevent conflict. Oh, sorry, you're already on the next one. Oh, my fault. Some things you can do yourself is to keep children, young children, and dogs close. Make yourself large and loud when you encounter a coyote and use motion sensor deterrents like lights and sprinklers around your home. Do not run if you encounter a coyote. They will chase after you and think you are food. So let's not run from a coyote. Just make yourself loud and scary. Okay, moving on.
Okay, well,
sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead, Kinsey.
Okay, I don't think I have the updated script, but that's okay. Now we have the great opportunity to take some of our own LFS to talk to some of our own LFS professors, alumni, and students. We're going to have each of them introduce themselves, and then you can ask any questions you may have. I'm going to preface that these questions should be focused on student experience in life rather than academic requirements, because we will have time at the end for those sort of questions. All right. So, Dr. Sasha, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be here. So my full name is Alexandra, but you can call me Sasha. It's I have a Russian heritage, and there's always these there's a long name and then the shortened name, and so Sasha is my nickname, the shortened name. So please call me that. I'm an assistant professor in the faculty, and I'm teaching on the applied animal biology side. That matches with my research. So I study animal welfare, and specifically you can see I'm rather dog obsessed. And so I focus quite a bit on dogs. But my research group also includes research on other companion animals like cats. We have recent research or undergraduate students working through a course called Directed Studies, focusing on rabbits. We also have another undergraduate thesis also focusing on rabbits. We had some on rats before, so all kinds of companion animals. You might wonder how companion animals fit into kind of food systems, because I think a lot of the other research programs are really centered around agriculture and food systems, or land and food. In a way, we're kind of less thinking about it from land and food, but more about how can we support our kind of ecosystems, how can we support animals that are around us. And so certainly dogs and other companion animals are also animals who are around us. And so that's what we work on. And I teach two courses. One course will be in your second year in the major. That course is an introduction to the history and philosophy of animal sheltering. So that course is great for those who are interested in animal rescue, animal rehabilitation, animal sheltering careers, where you learn all about something called One Welfare. And One Welfare is probably something that you guys might hear other students talk about. It's the concept that everything is interrelated, or everything is interconnected. So when we talk about human well-being, we can't forget to talk about animal welfare. We also can't forget to talk about environment. And so everything is connected, and we can't just focus on one issue at a time. And this is something, by the way, that land and food systems is really good, really that systems thinking approach. Rather than focusing on one issue, we're really focusing on kind of everything all at once. And then the other course that I teach is in the third year. That one focuses on animal behavior and animal learning. And so there, if you're interested in, again, animal rehabilitation, but also animal training, dog training, animal consulting, behavior consulting, or really just curious about animal behavior. So there we use case studies to talk about rather complex issues of how animals, including humans, learn. So why don't I pause there? And then if you guys have questions, we can discuss. Well, thank you, Megan and Michelle.
Does anyone have any questions immediately? You can unmute if you feel comfortable doing that and ask, or type them in the chat if you'd prefer.
While you guys are thinking about questions, you might wonder what does this research look like? So I do run a research lab that focuses on companion animals. And what does it mean? Does it mean that we have dogs housed in cages in laboratories or whatnot, and that's not the case. We don't have any dogs or cats in laboratories in the traditional sense. Instead, research can actually mean many different kinds of things. And in fact, in our faculty, most of research is done out in the community. So even though there are some researchers who utilize what's called wet labs, is when you kind of imagine the pipetting in the laboratory. That certainly happens, but a lot of research happens in schools, for example, in the nutrition kind of side, or it may happen out on the farm or out on the dairy farm. If we're looking at animal welfare, for us that may happen in functional animal shelters. We also have a space in Macmillan, which is our main building, where pet owners can bring in their pet dogs, and then we ask dogs various questions. Like, for example, now we have a study ongoing asking animals questions about what's their favorite color and things like that. So we can ask all kinds of kind of cognitive types of things using behavior. Oh, thank you, Megan, for putting that link up. So yeah, definitely check us out. You can see some photos of our dogs participating and the students who are participating.
It doesn't look like we have any questions just now, so I'll have Megan introduce herself, and then after that we'll have Michelle introduce herself, and then we'll open it up for questions all together. So I have Megan's slide here. She's one of our alumni. We're so glad she's here.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm going to actually start from the current and then work my way back in time. So as you can see here, my current position is the interim research coordinator for the UBC Animal Welfare Program, as we just have been talking about. So I got this job after completing a work learn, which is a part-time job at UBC, where I was able to both study and also get some work experience and research experience at this animal welfare program. So I've been doing that for the past few couple months, and I actually graduated this past spring. So now I'm officially an alumnus of LFS. So throughout my degree, I've actually started in science and then transferred to LFS, where I really fell in love with the applied biology program. I've done more leadership experience in the beginning of my degree, where I've volunteered with various clubs, and I volunteered also with the undergraduate society at LFS, and then decided to pivot to research more in my last year, which is where I found the animal welfare program. So you're welcome to ask me questions about any of these subjects.
Amazing. Thank you for introducing yourself. I'm gonna have Michelle introduce herself next.
So hi everyone, I'm Michelle. I use she/hers pronouns. I'm currently in my second year of applied animal biology. And so a little bit about me. I am originally from Iran, Tehran, and I grew up in Melbourne, Australia afterwards. And a little fun fact about me is that I love to surf, so hence growing up in Australia. One of my favorite experiences that I really wanted to share with you guys about being part of the LFS faculty has been actually something that I've gotten involved with this year, which was the LFS mentorship program. So a little bit of like what we do during this program is that the LFS faculty, they get you paired up with a mentor, and the mentors are, you kind of get to choose who they're going to be, and they range from professors, the dean of LFS, people with around, I guess, BC who are kind of like looking for volunteers, or research, I guess, assistants from the LFS faculty, as well as people that have already graduated from LFS. And I think this was a really fun experience for me because really helped put things into perspective for me, kind of talking to people that have graduated from LFS, people that have like gone on to take different paths, and like what they've done to get to where they are, and kind of like looking at the yeah, just like the different paths and like different things that you can get involved with and like different career opportunities for your degree. And I think this also kind of ties back to what we were talking about in the beginning about us being a very close-knit small community, because I don't know if any of the other faculties have any events where like you just get to talk to your dean or talk to a lot of your professors and like alumni. And yeah, that has definitely been one of my favorite experiences as an LFS student so far.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to open up the floor again for questions if anybody has some.
I had a question. I was
Amazing,
wondering,
go right ahead.
okay, will students have the opportunity to do out-of-class research with animals? And like, if they can, what would this research look like?
I can try to answer that. That's a great question. So there's a couple of different opportunities that you may take part in. And so they all are through either the practicum course. And in that practicum course, you can have an opportunity to either go assist at the Vancouver branch of the BCSBCA. That there you get a chance to work directly with cats, occasionally dogs, occasionally rabbits. It's kind of learning about sheltering, learning about rehabilitation, helping animals become less fearful of humans, for example. So that's through the practicum. Another practicum opportunity could be to go out in the dairy in Agassiz, and some students even live out there and help out with not only the research aspects, but also with kind of the day-to-day, even milking, feeding, taking care of cows and cows. Another opportunity is to go and assist with research and care of animals housed at the CCM. What does that stand for? Comparative Center.
Center of Comparative Medicine.
Thank you.
I think.
And there is research animals, so rats, mice, and occasionally pigs. And for example, there's some research that is that requires positive reinforcement training for pigs, very much like dogs. Like you might train a dog with a clicker, you'll also get a chance to train pigs with a clicker. And so there's a lot of those kind of more on the practicum side opportunities. In terms of research, research is done either through volunteering or through more formally a course called directed studies, which is usually one term, like a 3-credit course that's done maybe, let's say, 3rd year or so, maybe 2nd year. And then a final thesis, that's a year-long course, and that usually is done in the last year. And that in those kind of courses that you are looking for a particular supervisor. And so, for example, if you have a particular interest in laboratory animals, you might go to find a supervisor that really works with laboratory animals, or if you're looking to work with cows, you will particularly kind of go after the person who's working on cows. And the way you find out who's working on what is to certainly go through the websites, look around, but also as you're taking the courses in the major, you'll get all the teachers are the people who are doing the research, and so you get a chance to kind of meet everyone throughout the course. Throughout the courses. Perhaps I'll pause here and let the students who have those experiences talk as well.
I was just gonna say I don't have any like experience myself with research, but something that we did do this semester was during one of the courses called the LFS 250 course, which is actually you have the option of taking this course at the farm. So you actually get to go down to the farm, and that's where the course takes place. And throughout the course, we take a trip to a dairy farm, which is in Surrey. And then afterwards, they kind of sent out an email saying that there are research opportunities for people that are interested in like volunteering at that dairy farm. And I think there was another farm around BC that was taking in students from LFS. So I think that is also like ways that you can get involved, just like the courses that you're kind of taking, like looking at the places you're going. And yeah, they do kind of usually tell you about the opportunities that will be available to you in terms of research.
I'll just add quickly a bit about other research area of animals and science. I haven't had much work with animals throughout my degree, but what I did get a chance to do was as part of my work learn role. Even as a communications and media assistant, there's always a lot of work being done throughout the program, different graduate students and undergraduate students working on these different projects. And I was invited to help out with research on refining handling procedures with mice. So I got to go down to CDM, another acronym, but it's another building where there's research done with lab animals. And this time it was mainly about, like refining handling to improve their welfare, which was really cool to experience.
What a great question. Does anybody else have any questions so far? Well, I have some questions. First for Michelle, I was just curious how you decided that you wanted to come to LFS and come to Vancouver when you were first coming to university.
I think for me, what really kind of like made LFS stand out from all the other faculties was that I was originally looking for like a biology-based degree. And while I was like comparing all the different, I guess, degrees and like faculties at UBC that offered that, LFS really particularly stood out for me because I was attending these kind of like meetings this time, I guess last year. And I kept hearing the fact that we are a very like tight-knit, close community, and you get to have a lot of like hands-on experience with what you're doing and what you're learning, and you get to know your professors, you get to kind of like engage with the people around you, which is kind of a lot different from I guess like the faculties with like the big lecture halls where you don't really get to know your profs with like on like a first name basis, I would say. And something that's really important for me is that I kind of want to be able to put in the like I don't just want to be learning. I kind of want to know what to do with the things that I'm learning. And I think that's kind of what LFS is really all about. You're kind of learning to apply the knowledge that you're gaining throughout your years to real life problems and like real world issues that are going on. And I think that's something that was really important for me, and that really helped make my decision in the faculty that I was choosing.
Thank you. Megan, do you have any thoughts on that for when you were deciding to come to LFS?
Yeah, I totally agree about the applied aspect. I knew I've always wanted to work with animals in some way. So throughout high school, I just prepared doing all the general science prerequisites. And then I went into science, and I guess I spent about the first semester just again doing science, the biology, chemistry, calculus. And I had some friends in LFS, and one of them who I went to high school with, she suggested, why don't you look at applied biology? And I thought, oh, I don't really want to do like a veterinary degree. I don't want to work in farms. But then I really researched about what the degree is about and the flexibility I have with the courses. And that's really what drew me. Basically the flexibility, the ability to apply my knowledge in a very tangible way, and just this tight-knit community. Those were all the reasons why I was drawn to this faculty and transferred out of science.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask if anybody else has questions. Again, if you don't feel comfortable unmuting, feel free to toss them in the chat.
I have a question for all of the students. So Michelle, Caroline, Kinsey, what has been your favorite course throughout your degree, or potentially like your favorite experience?
That's a good one. The first thing that comes to my mind is I'll bring up the course that Michelle talked about. I'm currently taking LFS 250, and I am in one of the classes that are on the farm, and it is just so fun to be out there with just in nature while learning and doing all of these things. So that's one of the great experiences. But my favorite experience was going to the dairy farm and seeing how it worked, talking with the farmers and just trying to figure out how, or learning how they do everything. They have their process down to a T where they do 3 different rounds of milking 850 cows a day, or 3 times a day, sorry, not 1 time per day, 3 times per day. And also just how they take care. I got to see a bunch of calves, which was really cool, and really cute. So that was just a really cool experience. And I think that is probably why I like LFS so much, is because you have those real life experiences. You get to go and see everything and get in touch with the real people that are doing it, instead of just like looking at a screen and reading research papers and all of these things. You get the actual experience and that applied aspect. So I think that's why that's probably my favorite part of LFS. Hand it off to maybe Caroline.
Sure. Honestly, my answer is pretty similar, but instead of LFS 250, it's LFS 350, which is the next class in the LFS core series, which is required. I think it's 3 classes that are required for all LFS students. In LFS 350, you get paired into groups based on your interest to do a community-based action research project. So you're working with a real community partner, with people who are also interested in the same sort of thing. I did this last spring, and my group worked with the Notsamat Tribal Council, which is a tribal council here they're based in North Vancouver, but they facilitate like community between 10 different Coast Salish nations, and they wanted to create a seed library for traditional like BC plants, so that all of their different member nations could have community gardens and like learn how to cultivate their traditional plants, which was really cool to learn about all of that. And we got to actually work with these communities. And like Kinsey said, it's a real world experience, and you gain a lot of skills like just communication skills, working with your community partner, research skills, knowledge about actual research, and presentation skills as well. And I had a really great group, so we had a really good time doing that project.
I think for me, it was actually one of the courses that Sasha taught that I think she was just talking about. So it's a 2nd-year course, but I actually took it in my 1st year. I think it's at by 214. And what I really liked about this course is that we kind of, it was like we had to have our own shelter, and we were in a group, and then our shelter would like face challenges, and then we would have to kind of like overcome those challenges with like things considering ethical like considerations and like our financial situation. And I think what was really interesting for me was that I honestly didn't really think about all the other kind of like opportunities that applied animal biology offers, because I always thought of like my degree being like a pre-veterinary degree, but then I kind of saw like the other things that I can kind of get involved with like running a shelter, the things that kind of go into running that shelter. And I think it was just one of those courses where you kind of got to step out of your comfort zone and look at like something that you're studying from a different perspective. And yeah, it was really It was a really enjoyable course for me. And one other thing was that for I think one of the sessions we got to like observe a dog's behavior and kind of like go into the lab and see what the dog was doing and kind of like take notes and then see how we would interpret this behavior for as our shelter and like what we would then end up doing with that dog if we were to take the dog in. And it was just really fun kind of getting like hands-on experience of what you'd want to do. So.
So we have a question in the chat. Were any of you involved in any clubs?
I could speak to the part about clubs. I can go all the way back to 2020 in the peak of the pandemic. I thought about I should really get involved in some clubs, and I joined a couple based on my other interests, which is in kind of marketing and design. So I joined the UBC Heart and Stroke Foundation Club and did some graphic design for them. And then I joined another club in data analytics, which was totally like on the opposite side of my degree, but it was great getting to know like people in different fields and different majors. So I did marketing for them. And those are really great experiences, especially with the data analytics club, getting out of the pandemic and then going into more in-person events and just really getting to know more people and attending events. And then besides those two, I was part of the undergraduate society. So I kind of consider that to be a bit of a club. And I was the applied biology program representative in my first year and then was elected as the VP engagement in the following year. So I helped with event planning and again, just a great way to extracurriculars in general are just a really great way to supplement your degree experience because it's not all about, at the end of the day, you're not going to remember all the nights you spent studying or the tests that you had. You're going to remember the memories you made in university with making friends and all these events and just learning. So I really recommend checking out clubs, especially on the very first day. I don't know if you've probably heard a little bit about, we have Imagine Day at UBC. So it'll be Imagine 2024. That number sounds so, wow, I can't believe it's already 2024. But essentially all classes are canceled on that day. And our main area or pathway and on campus is called Main Mall. And there's clubs lining up and down both sides of that pathway. And you can walk around just like a club fair and then check out to see whatever interests you. So yeah, that's something to look forward to if you want to join some clubs.
I guess I can kind of answer that question as well. So similar to the undergraduate society, I'm part of the LFS academic and career engagement team, which I guess is kind of a club. So we basically make like events and workshops for LFS students. So currently we're doing like something that we have in LFS is Wednesday night dinners. And so we kind of got involved with the undergraduate society. And so we're having Wednesday night dinners and meet a prof. So it's kind of like combined. So it's basically you get to have dinner and network and talk to your professors. And what we were talking about before, like if you're interested in research opportunities or anything else you would like to talk to your profs about, I guess that's like a really good time outside the classroom to kind of be like, hi, like I'm looking for this, or just to like have a chat with your prof. And yeah, so we kind of plan events and workshops for the LFS faculty. And other than that, I'm also in the UBC Medicine Club and the UBC Surf Club.
I have a question for Sasha and Megan. I'm just wondering when you decided that you were interested in research and what sort of path you followed to try to get there.
Thank you for the question. I think when I was in high school in the US, I thought that I knew I loved animals. I did know that I loved behavior, but I didn't know what else you could do with animals except go to veterinary school. And so I sought out and entered a pre-veterinary degree at the university. But then while I was there, I took an animal behavior course in my second year, and the course was taught by a person who was studying apes or monkeys, someone called a primatologist. And she was telling us that she had a laboratory on campus. This was in the US, where they did research in monkey cognition with rhesus macaques. And so I was very excited about this prospect. And so I kind of bothered her until she let me in the lab. And then I kind of did my some volunteering over there first, and then did an undergraduate thesis. And also at the same time, in the summer, as one should, as a good pre-veterinary student, one also should work always in veterinary clinics every summer. And I realized how much I didn't like working in veterinary clinics. I much preferred hanging out in the laboratory with the monkeys, and also learned from that within that laboratory that there are more career opportunities in research as well. And so I pursued research and decided against applying to vet school.
Yeah, I guess for me, I was never opposed the idea of research. I always kind of kept it in the back of my mind as I pursued first biology and then applied biology. And I guess it mainly started after taking a lot of the applied biology courses in third year, because it's really great about the program is that once you get all the prerequisites done, I was able to really pick and choose and design my major around my interests. So then I took a few courses and realized how there's a lot of research going on right here at UBC at the Animal Welfare Program. And just hearing from the professors and guest speakers that were coming in, I was getting more interested in seeing what it was all about. So after joining the LFS mentorship program, which was mentioned earlier, I was actually paired up with Lexis, who is a current PhD student. And I also met with her and Sasha. Actually, one day I had a tour of the office, and she just talked about her experiences as an undergraduate as well, going through the same degree that I was going through, and how she ended up at the Animal Welfare Program. And I reached out to her to actually do, it's called By 398, which is a research methods class that I had signed up for. And that way I was really able to, it was just requirements for just doing like about 10 hours throughout the term of helping out with the students' research. And then you get to practice like presentation skills and writing skills. And it's a really great way to see if you're really into research or not. So I was able to help her out with her project, and that made me convinced that this is something that I would want to follow and explore more.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any last minute questions? If anyone comes up with them, feel free to type it in the chat, but I think we're going to move on.
Perfect. So why study in LFS? So at LFS, we have, like we've said before, a very tight-knit community of students, staff, and faculty. We offer unique in and out of class experiences and opportunities. And our course series is a really good example of this. As was mentioned before, that's the LFS 250 course, part of the course series. And if you're interested in a career in science and meaningful change, then this faculty is probably for you. Next slide, please. So how do you know? How do we make these decisions? Well, first, I think it is doing your research, choosing the degree that you want to study based on your interests, and knowing the admission requirements, which are on u.ubc.ca, and we'll be going over shortly. And you've already done this step. Come to events like these. Next slide, please. So we have two slides coming up that are about BC high school requirements for applications, as well as any post-secondary transfer requirements for any of you coming from different institutions. So first and foremost, for the BC high school requirements, we do have a deadline of January 15th to apply. And the high school requirements are listed on the slide. So grade 11, any language arts, you need a language 11 or potentially a waiver for a language 11. You're going to have chemistry and physics as well. Physics can also be waived if you score high enough at senior level math. And then pre-calculus 11 or foundations of math 12. And for grade 12 requirements, you have the English studies or English first peoples 12, pre-calculus 12 or calculus 12, and anatomy and physiology, biology 12, chemistry 12, or physics. So this brings us to the post-secondary transfer requirements. So students from other institutions must meet our minimum high school requirements or have taken the equivalent at your post-secondary institution. So to find these course equivalencies, we recommend using the BC Transfer Guide to input your school, the courses you've taken, and to kind of figure out what credits you have coming in. And applications are considered on your most recent 24 to 30 credits. And we tell students to aim in the mid-70s or higher to be competitive.
So still have questions?